Hello, everybody. I'm Chuck Wiger. I am the state senator for the area, and I'm so pleased to have with me Senator Nick Frentz. Welcome to our show.
Thank you, Chuck. It's very nice seeing you. Thanks for the work that you do for your district, too.
Oh, thank you. You are a leader in the Minnesota legislature on a number of issues, but very significant now is the important issue of climate change and energy. We have formed a new caucus on this. You're the leader of that, and please share with our viewers why this is an important issue to you and to our state and the planet.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for joining the new DFL Senate Clean Energy Climate Caucus. We announced today that we have 29 of our 32 members committed to work on climate change and clean energy issues, and your leadership on that's appreciated just like everyone else. The main reason we're forming the caucus is to give a voice to Minnesotans who want to see us take action, who want to have hearings held on climate change to talk about the causes and effects, and to pick the legislation that best suits Minnesota to not only help reverse the effects of climate change, but to be a leader amongst the states. As you know, the federal government not currently taking a whole lot of action on climate change, and it's up to the states to lead when there's a void like that. And I'm looking forward to us in the DFL Senate caucus taking some steps to do that.
Yeah, and the governor has made a very strong statement on this. We've talked about science matters. Tell us more about that. Why does science matter?
Well, because you want to have the right answer. So when we talk about scientists and climate change, we're talking about an evolution of 30, 40, 50 years of scientists telling us, hey, this change is happening, or hey, this is causing this, or hey, if you don't watch out, this might happen. In particular, the last 25 years, scientists have been saying climate change is going to cause greenhouse gases to be trapped. If they do, the planet's going to heat up. And if it heats up, you're going to see some things that you don't like.
Are scientists fairly unanimous on this, or is it a strong opinion that's been formed on a nonpartisan basis?
Well, of course, scientists loathe the idea that they even allow partisanship into their work. That's why they're scientists and not state senators. They have quoted numbers like 97% of scientists agree on climate change, and I guess it depends on what article you read. I'm a non-scientist, so I don't really get the test tube part of it, but I know that we have a consensus worldwide, and probably the best example of the science is that 19 other countries joined with us in years past to form the Paris Climate Accords, relying on that science.
Yes.
The United States is now no longer signatory to that accord, and I'm sorry to hear that, but that tells you that at least 19 of the 20 countries think their scientists know what they're talking about.
Yeah. I have a globe here, and we talk about the planet being on fire. Tell us more about that, and then let's relate it to Minnesota.
Well, first of all, this is a nice globe. Reminds me of when I was in school. We used to have to pick out certain countries. A couple things to keep in mind are that there's a polar ice cap, and there's nobody arguing anymore. It's melting. So if we talk about heat and we talk about ice, we all know what happens. As the oceans rise, you have certain consequences.
Yeah, indisputable about the polar ice cap.
No gray area there.
Looking to the top, it's melting.
It's zero on this globe, actually. Never mind that right now. As the seas rise, of course, you have the most immediate effects on the coast. So we were talking this morning about property insurance rates and the southeastern seaboard. Well, they're just flying upwards because hurricanes are causing more damage and they're more frequent. Here in Minnesota, my favorite state, right in this area here, some of the more immediate and visible things we have are the rain events. So where I represent, which is Mankato, North Mankato, St. Peter, and a lot of agriculture area around there, we saw 4 inches of rain in 24 hours, things that in the old days would happen once every 20 or 30 years, multiple times just this year. And so farmers, for example, who are hoping to have some predictable weather and grow some crops and make a small profit and live on the land and have a great quality of life, would love to see rain events and flooding that comes with it and the tiling issues be a thing of the past. And so addressing climate change hopefully will let us reduce some of those things from happening.
So it's affecting the whole planet.
Well, if you want to talk, if I get to use the globe, just like a kid here, down here.
And it's all about this next generation that
Sure.
we want to make sure it's going to be in a better sense of what we're going to have for our legacy.
Yeah, the college students in our district have told us there's actually a word that college students in that age group use for climate anxiety. They are so concerned about climate change and the next generation that they're actually talking about the way they get upset. And all I was going to show you on the globe is some parts of the world have seen weather events, which we were not really thinking about 50 years ago, not to mention wildfires across the globe. So depending on where you live, you got some reasons to be concerned.
Good. We have the caucus. We want to have hearings, at least on these issues. Share with our viewers why that's important to have a hearing.
Well, hopefully people send their legislators to St. Paul to work on the things that are important to them, education, transportation, good jobs, climate change.
Yes.
The hearings allow the public to come forward and testify for those of us that are on whatever committee, in this case the Senate Energy Committee. So we want to know, what does it sound like when scientists, when advocates, when labor, when business comes to talk to us about climate change. And so what we're asking for, one of our principal requests as the formation of this caucus is, can't we have hearings on the causes and effect of climate change in the Senate? Maybe we disagree about how it sounds or what we do, but let's have those hearings. And a good question, Senator Wiger, would be, what are we doing in the Senate Energy Committee that's more important than discussing climate change?
Right. And we heard testimony at the press conference from business leader, an entrepreneur in Roseville, very successful. We heard from the trades, labor groups. Why is it important to them?
Well, because as we talk about the transition which we have to make, there's tremendous economic opportunity. Here's the good news. We have already created 60,000 clean energy jobs in Minnesota. Solar installer.
Quality paying jobs,
yeah,
too.
Solar installer and technician, fastest growing job in the country.
Yes.
We can have not only growth in businesses, not only wages increase, we can have labor be a part of it, short and long term. We can do things like we have in the past as a country that see a challenge and say we can not only meet it but prosper from it.
Great. A few of the key items that you'd like to see passed. And it may take a while, and that's how the legislative process works, but...
Are you saying it takes a while?
Yes. Patience
I had
is
not
bitter,
heard that.
but its fruit is sweet. So,
Well, a couple things that I think people in Minnesota would find agreeable, and I hope that as we go through this session, we get some traction. Clean Energy First is the part of the governor's bill which says we'll instruct the Public Utilities Commission, create a preference for renewable energy.
yes.
This will necessarily cause the energy producers, public utilities, investor-owned utilities to move towards wind, solar, biomass, and decrease the burning of fossil fuels and decrease carbon emissions. So that's something that had some bipartisan support, passed in the House, and would love to see us move forward on that. We were not that far away from it last session.
Okay.
And then more discussion about some of the other proposals. Senator Rest and Senator Marty have a carbon tax proposal. We should be talking about that. And then we want to also incentivize innovation. You and I might not be on this planet in 75 years, although I kind of hope we are. But who knows what will be invented? Who knows what ways in carbon capture, sequestration, or energy storage that we might as a state say, hey, if you work on this, we'll reward you. And that's where some of the greatest breakthroughs in human history have come from.
A lot of organizations are working on this issue. Any websites that you might want to do a shout out for, or just maybe go to a search engine?
Well, there's too many to name. I'll get in trouble if I name just some of them.
Okay.
But the clean energy community, if you will, has a number of smaller groups that work on things like this. You talked about Eric Passy from IPS Solar,
Yes.
Clean Energy Minnesota, Wind on the Wires. There are a lot of groups, Conservation Minnesota, some that have an interest in clean water in addition to energy generation. And if you just work the Google machine, you can find plenty of them. By the way, thanks for mentioning that, because one of the things we hope to do with this caucus is to better connect those advocacy groups to Minnesotans, to us. We'll be more likely to get it right.
Right. And I'm hoping in education, where I've been very active, that we can do more for retrofitting our schools, the building of new schools. There was some mention of that this morning, but we need to do a whole lot more, as well as the education and just in preparing the next generation. Though many of these students are leading the charge, as we know.
Sure. We had a climate strike in our district just 2 weeks ago where high school students essentially walked out and said, hey, we want to have action on this now. But I can't resist complimenting you on the point about education just as a part of our work on education.
Yes.
And thank you. We can put solar panels on school district roofs. And as we fight for fair funding for our students and for our schools and our teachers, remember that a lot of places find that the long-term savings of wind and solar justify themselves even if you don't care about climate change. So for example, a 25-year solar panel on the spectacular North St. Paul Polars facility actually produces savings over what they call the legacy heating approach of before. So whether or not you think the house is on fire, the planet's on fire, and it'll burn up in 2 weeks or 2 years or 2 decades or whatever, there's real savings to be had.
Wonderful. For our viewers, would you like to share a little bit more about you personally? You're representing the greater Mankato area, but that's where you live, but a snapshot about yourself.
Wow, I wasn't prepared for such probing questions. Well, I live in North Mankato with my beautiful wife, Jill. We've been married over 30 years. We have 4 adult kids. They're all fantastic. Hi, kids. I represent District 19, so that's Mankato, North Mankato, St. Peter, about 19 rural townships around the 3-county area. My father's side of the family's been from there over 150 years, so we have a lot of cousins and nieces and nephews rumbling around.
You're an attorney?
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm a lawyer because I found lawyers were so popular. I moved into politics to capitalize on that popularity. And I'm a sports fan and have done a lot of coaching, and in particular kind of a football fan. And I work on the youth tackle football board down there for about 15 years, and I'm very proud of all the area stuff that we have. And we're very humble in the Mankato area, but very proud of our quality of life, and especially proud, Senator Wiger, of our schools. So thanks for the work you've done. We've been as much beneficiaries as all of them. If you need proof, you just say, well, what have some of the teachers from Mankato done? Well, one of them's the governor, so I like that. Plus, he coached football at Mankato West. Who doesn't cheer for them?
Yeah, you have a lot in common there. So, you have hobbies?
Well, I have 2 jobs, so I still am a partner at my law firm, Masker, Reedy, Reese, and Frentz. That takes a ton of time. I have my work in the Senate. That takes a ton of time. My kids are constantly calling, saying they need something. That takes a ton of time. I play hockey a couple nights a week in a men's league down there.
Do you have a chance to go to bed to sleep?
I usually get to sleep early.
Okay.
In fact, my family started making fun of me for this when I ran for office in 2016. And I came home from door knocking on about a 105-degree night. I was just dripping with sweat. And my wife said, hey, it's 9 o'clock at night. Do you want to have a drink? And I said, no, I got a such and such at 7 in the morning. I got to get to bed. And she paused and she just said, what happened to the fun, Nick? And since then, I've really focused on the work in the Senate and on getting to bed early. I used to stay up a little later. I'll tell you about that when you're older.
Yeah. Well, you have an incredible amount of energy. Your talent is just shining here. We're so pleased to have you. Any concluding remarks you'd like to share with our viewers about the importance of climate change?
Just that it's something that we all have in common, that we plan to have this planet for our kids and for our grandkids. And so it's okay to disagree on where we go and how we solve these problems, but it's not okay to not work on them. And then I can't resist because the camera's on and he can't really stop me. Thanks for your work in the Senate too. I appreciate not just being here today, but for all the stuff you do. I love when you speak on the floor. I was a speech communications major, and so when you get the mic, I'm always kind of fired up to hear what you have to say. It's speaking of energy and enthusiasm, that counts for something, right?
Yes, well, thanks. If viewers want to contact you, your phone number and including your cell phone, because I know that you want them to reach you.
Well, you're welcome to text or call me anytime. My cell phone is 507-382-5234. Of course, you can reach me or my coworker, Justin Emmerich, here at the Senate. That's sen.nick.frentz@senate.mn.
And the phone number at the Senate is 651?
651-296. 6153, I think.
Excellent. Good. Well, and there's other ways too. I know you have town meetings and
carrier pigeon, 2 cans with wax string, whatever it takes.
Wonderful. Thank you very much
for joining us. Thank you very much, Senator. Great seeing you.
Continued success. We
You
appreciate
too.
it.
You too. Thank you.
Bye. If you have questions, please get a hold of Senator Frentz, or you're welcome to contact me as always. My cell phone, 651-770-0283. Thank you.